Hello, good day. It's Clive Maund of clivemaund.com here, and the date is Sunday, the 17th of August. I got some very good news for those who have an interest in seeing the precious metals sector rise, because I believe that we are on the verge of a crack-up boom in the precious metal sector. And what we're going to do now is go through a small selection of charts on which I will demonstrate why I believe that the sector is going to rise and rise a lot, and probably imminently. We'll start with a long-term chart for GDX, which is the Market Vectors Gold Miners Index, going back to about 2006 when it started. And on this first chart, we can see that it's meandered around all over the place, but essentially following the major bull market of the 2000s, it topped out in 2011. Then it went into a bear market, which turned out, as we can see on the chart, it marked out a huge cup and handle pattern, which it actually completely succeeded in breaking out of only early this year. And it's risen very strongly last year and this year. This year it's completed the breakout from this cup and handle base pattern, but it has yet to break above the resistance nearing or close to the 2011 highs. But it's arrived at that resistance now, and it looks to me like it's going to break above it. Now you might say, looking at this chart, oh well, it looks overbought, it's gone up a lot the last year or two. It is medium term overbought, there's no doubt about it, but I believe it's going to go up anyway, and a big reason for that we can see at the top of the chart, which is gold has gone up so much last year and this year that it's that the rise in the GDX is not only fully justified, but in my opinion it hasn't gone up enough. And we'll now proceed to see why on the second chart in our series. If we now move on to look at the chart for roughly the same period, or in fact the same period of GDX measured against gold itself, we see that far from going up much, it's still down near the lows compared to gold itself. Now normally the precious metal sector outperforms the precious metals, especially gold. But so far, as you can see on this chart, this GDX over gold chart, it's barely moved the needle. It's hardly got moving. And that means that this bull market is still in its very early stages, and it's got much further to go, which is a point that's further emphasized by the silver to gold ratio, with silver still being very low relative to gold. Now we'll move on to look at a 7-year chart, or 6-year or 7-year chart for it's a 7-year chart for GDX. And on this chart, we can see the right side of the cup, of the cup and handle pattern that we looked at on the long-term chart, and we can see how the handle part of this pattern is made up of what's called a head and shoulders continuation pattern. In addition to which, the price, the GDX, the price track of GDX is following a parabolic bowl pattern. And this bowl pattern is projecting the price higher and higher now, and it's already driven it up to the major resistance level at the 2011 highs. To me, it looks ready now to break out above this resistance and continue higher. And we'll see why that is the case by continuing on to look at the 6-month chart for GDX. Now, looking at the 6-month chart for GDX, we can see a continuous uptrend from March, April, how it's been trending steadily higher. And within this uptrend, we can see an embedded cup and handle continuation pattern. There's a much smaller one, obviously, than the one we saw on the long-term chart. But we can also see, now some people are thinking that because we had that sharp rise early this month, the sector, which has brought the sector up to the resistance at the 2011 highs, but it's either going to consolidate or back off. Many investors fear that it might back off here because it's medium-term overbought. But this chart suggests it's forming a bull flag. Following the sharp rise early this month, it's forming a bull flag. with volume dropping right back, as we can see, which strongly suggests that instead of consolidating or reacting back, it's going to break higher and break sharply higher with a move that will at least be equal to the move we saw early this month and probably much greater. And once that happens, you know, the GDX, and that is to say, and XAU, the XAU index, which is more or less following the same track as GDX, once that happens, these indices, I would expect, or the sector to accelerate quite dramatically to the upside. So we are on the verge of something very big here. And I think we're on the verge of what's called a crack-up boom in the precious metal sector, which makes sense when you consider the outlook for the world economy and for the dollar and other investments and so on. And lastly, to emphasize that when this happens, silver is going to perform spectacularly, because I believe it will break out above $50 and really ramp up. And you know, some people are talking about a target at $200, which I think is conservative over the next 2 or 3 years. Anyway, that's all for now. So I think this major breakout could occur, looking at these charts, it could occur very soon and even imminently. So let's see what happens over the next week or two. Okay.